Okay, here we are again. This is Babby Martinez, and this time we're going to be talking about the Accu-Fill tool that is one of the wonderful components in our Horizon Link Suite program. So whenever we start with a new program, I always like to start at the very beginning and just talk a little bit about the toolbars and what we are going to find under the Sewing Applications button. I call it the Sewing Applications button. I think the technical term is it's just the applications. But anyway, upper left-hand tool, let's go ahead and give it a click and let's look what's there. As usual, we are going to find that we have a start page, and anytime that we are starting a new design when we've opened up this program, this is the start page over here. And what we don't want to do at this point is we don't want to hit our exit button because that is going to exit us out of the entire program. So that's what that's all about. Anyway, clear design, which comes here next, is actually, as we can see when we hover over this, one of the little tips that comes up is it says it will clear the design without changing the editing size. So later on when we're actually looking at this program, one of the major components of it is that we are going to be able to enter certain measurements for our projects that we're working on in the Accu-Fill program. And let's just say, for example, that we are working on a quilt or something where we want to use the same size block over and over again. And maybe we want to keep some of the elements within that block and change other ones out as we're editing it. Instead of having to start all over from scratch, one of the things that we can do to maintain the size of that block is that we can just come over here to the start page here and we can clear the design out and start importing new designs into that same design space. We've got our typical to open up design tool. We've got our save as, and print. One of the things about the print mode here is that you are almost always going to want to print a template as a printed template anyway to use as part of the positioning of your design when you're working with Accu-Fill designs. That's most often going to be most important when we're working with the stipple fill patterns. And then we've got our unit of measurements. So this is kind of a neat thing that we've got in this section of the program where we are going to be able to choose if we want to work in the metric system or in inches. So, you know, sometimes you think one way, sometimes another, and I really like the fact that we can change where how we measure here. I'm going to keep it in metric for now and say okay. And then the last two things we've got here is this is a button for a design collection. Again, as we look at what we see here, it's going to be a list of all of the designs that are included in the Accu-Fill tool. So every time I select this thing, I always get a not responding and nothing actually shows up here, and I don't know why that happens, but anyway, hopefully yours works better than mine. Let's wait a couple of seconds and we can get this down. Close the program. It's not going to close the whole program, it's just going to close out that PDF reader. And then last of all, we've got our version tool here, which basically tells us that we are in version 1.3. This program, to the best of my knowledge, has never been updated. Even when Horizon Link Suite was updated for the Quilt Maker Edition machine, as I recall, nothing actually changed here in Accu-Fill. So anyway, if you ever wonder whether or not you're running the latest version, you might just want to come and check it here. Okay, in addition to what you see under the applications button is going to also be a list of everything that you have recently worked on as you've been in this program. So I've been experimenting a little bit and I've got several things listed here. All right, so that's the applications button. We've got a home tab, and under our home tab, everything is grayed out because we haven't actually started to work on a design yet. Many of these icons are things that you will be familiar with that are also in the other portions of our Horizon Link Suite design elements. And then we've got a view tab, and our view tab again is going to be something similar. You're going to be able to work with zooming in and zooming out, showing and hiding certain things. You might be able to change the color of your background if you wanted to. If you wanted to have the grid either in dots, solid lines, or no grid at all, you can change that, as well as the size of the grid. All of those underneath the view tab. Back on the home screen, below here, I want to just have you notice also that you can customize your ribbon toolbar here, just like you can also in other elements of the Horizon Link Suite program. The only items that I keep on mine right now is the Save As and a Print Preview. You can add and change yours as much as you want to, and you know how to do that. And over on the right-hand side, far, far right, very, very tiny, you've got your question mark, which is the help menu file, which you can also access very easily. And it's a pretty good help menu that you probably are going to want to read through. So these are the sections of the Accu-Fill tool that we're going to be looking at in this series of videos. The first one, Accu-Fill Multiple Design Layout. This is where we are going to be able to create stipple fill patterns to fill up whatever designated size of area that we want to put stipple fills into. This section here also works in conjunction with the Adjust Last Pattern Size. And what these two do is in the beginning, when you create your stipple fill and you begin to embroider that fill out on your projects, sometimes because of all the push and the pull and the shrinkage of the project, you might discover as you get toward the end of the design that the stipple fill you created might be just a little bit too big. So what you can do with it is you can then open this design up once again, and you can actually change the size of that pattern size by a little bit if needed. So that's how those two work together. The Create Original Accu-Fill Designs is where you probably will be doing a lot of creative work. This is where you can combine different designs together. You can combine not only the Accu-Fill designs that are included in this program, but other designs, GEF format designs that you may have in your collection, and create design layouts with them. Lots of fun to do. In the edit designs, this edit designs and this multiple setting actually work hand in hand also, similar to how the Accu-Fill works hand in hand with Adjust Last Pattern Size. So here, this is where you can create a single pattern. And if you look closely at the screen, you can see that they've got a little leaf kind of a pattern in here. And then you can use this pattern to just stitch out as many times as you want to within your embroidery hoop. You can also take this same design that you have created here or here, either one of these two places, and possibly even this one, although I've not tried this one. And you can open it up in the multiple setting. And this time what multiple setting does is it actually will change the size and possibly even the proportions of these designs that you have created in order to fit a specific area. So let's, when I demonstrate that, that's going to make a little bit more sense to you. And then what we'll do next is we will go ahead and work a little bit with the Accu-Fill multiple design layout. So let's open it up. And when you do that, there's a couple of things I want you to notice on your screen. In the main portion of the screen over here, you've got what is basically a layout design. And this could look different on your computer depending on what you last did in your program. Or if you've never worked with this program, I don't know exactly what you'll see. Other than this is a representation of the layout design that is listed over here in your editing design size. So what this is all about is this is where you're going to import whatever size design you want to work on. And then this will reflect how many hoopings of stipple fill these measurements will be divided up into. All right, so what we've got going on here is that you do have a minimum and a maximum in the metric system here, which may not make a whole lot of sense to us. So I'm going to cancel out. I'm going to come back up and change my unit of measurement to inches for now. I think a little bit better in inches when I'm doing this. So let's go to editing size. Now this makes a little bit more sense. So our minimum design size is going to be a 3.94 inches, and the maximum will be 129, a little bit over 129 inches of a design field. So let's say, for example, in our first little project that we're going to do is that maybe we're going to make a placemat. Let's say that our placemat is going to be 16 inches wide, and let's say that the height of the placemat is going to be, let's say, 13.5. Okay, it fits within those parameters. I'm going to say okay, and I want you to notice that this design up here in the upper left is going to change because I've changed the editing size of my design. All right, see what happened? It just now got smaller. Let's go to our View tab and let's zoom in so we can see this just a little bit bigger as I talk about this. So it does have a limitation on how much it's going to also let me expand this design. So what we're looking at here is this is the entire size that we selected. The blue lines are showing us the horizontal, vertical, and vertical center of that design section. The red lines are going to be the crosshairs of each of the individual hoopings that will make up this stipple fill pattern. So what we see on the bottom part of our screen is our status bar. If you ever are wondering how big of a design you made, you just need to remind yourself by looking down here at the status bar. The measurements that we imported were actually 16 by 13 and a half, and it kind of rounded off the size here. So this is our overall design size of our placemat. The next one over is our layout size. So this, again, the dimension is 15.91 by 13.39. And now I want you to also notice that sometimes when you have, depending on the measurements that you import here, it may round these off and change them just a little bit from what you actually wanted them to be. Usually it's not anything critical, I don't think. And the other piece of information in this layout size is that it is going to hoop or stitch out 2 times by 2 times. So we can see here 2 high by 2 wide, total of 4 hoopings to create this multiple stipple design. And then last of all, on the status bar, the single unit size. This is how big the stipple fill actually is, and that is the measurement for it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come home, and when we hit our next button, you're going to notice here that there's nothing available to do in this program at this point in time except hit the next button or to adjust the editing size just a little bit should you want to. Now, if you didn't like the way that the program divided up your stipple fill, then you might want to go back to editing size and change that a little bit. Let's leave it for now. Next button is going to show us what the stipple fill actually looks like. This is more or less the spacing that you're always going to have on the stipple fill. You will not have any control over how close together all the little squiggles are, and you will not have any control over the stitch length of each one of these stitches. So it's just kind of an automatic thing that happens, and that's one of the limitations in the program. Okay, so the next thing that we can do is we could come on down. All of these things are still grayed out, which means we're not going to have any editing tools available to us. But you can go ahead and write your design onto your USB stick. All right, and this is the thing about the USB stick is that you can't send this via Wi-Fi. I think when I'm hovering over this and I see that it's telling me that I can either write the design to the 15,000 or the USB, that means I can connect the direct connect cable and send this design over that way. Although I've not tried it, but that's what I think that means. So let's write this design. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on my Fiona stick. And I'm going to make myself a new folder. And I'm going to call it, let's go ahead and open it. This is it here. How about if I'm going to rename this file, I'm going to call it number 1 because I'm just going to number these according to the demonstrations that I'm doing. And I'm going to say OK. I want you to notice here that this is a JPX file, which is one of the Janome formats that sometimes gets created in various portions of Janome softwares. All right, the other thing about this JPX file is it's not exactly like those other JPX files that can get created in some of the Janome softwares. This one, couple of different funny things about it. It cannot be edited at all. Once you send it to the machine, even if you opened it up in the edit mode of the machine, you would not be able to try to alter the size of it in any way or change the colors or anything. You cannot edit this design. And that's what makes it a little bit different than the other JPX files that might come out of our digitizing program. And it can get a little bit confusing for some people, but I thought I'd better mention it to you. All right, so that design has been saved, and that is how you make an Accu-Fill design of stipple fill. Okay, next thing that you would need to do then is make sure that if you really wanted to keep this design, that maybe you might not want to just keep it on your USB. You might also want to save it somewhere in your computer if you chose to do it that way. And make sure that you do that if you think that this might ever be used again. So one thing I also want to mention about this is that whenever you're making Accu-Fill stipple fill patterns, they're always going to be either rectangles or squares, depending on the dimension that you put in here. You're not ever going to be able to create a triangle or a circle or any other kind of a shape out of your Accu-Fill stipple. All right, so that's how you do the first part of the program.